And hello again, everybody, and welcome to our latest edition of Making Waves, our weekly look at Roosevelt University athletics. And coming up, we'll have an interview with Roosevelt University golf coach Don Morris. But first, our weekend review segment, a little bit of a preview as well. And joined this week by Roosevelt University Sports Information Director Josh Walfish. And Josh, another busy week, very busy weekend, Roosevelt athletics. I was listening to Mike Cassidy call one of the baseball games while I was on my way to volleyball on the expressway, battling traffic, and he said at one point, Roosevelt athletics here, there, and everywhere. It was that kind of weekend, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we literally were here, there, and everywhere. We talk about Friday. I was up in Rosemont. You were here at Goodman for volleyball. Mike was down at Ozinka for baseball. Lot of home action for the Lakers this weekend.
And starting off with volleyball, top of the news kind of this week for Roosevelt University and the men's volleyball team. Great accomplishment, couple of wins, and they're able now to make their way into the GLVC conference tournament.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I think, I don't want to say necessarily scared me about this season, but you're going to the GLVC. We knew how talented Roosevelt could be. We knew the type of talent that Kelly Magliano was bringing in. It was about, okay, can they go out and can they win the matches they should win? And they've done that this season. They've taken care of business against teams they are clearly better than. And now the challenge is, okay, can they contend on a consistent basis with the upper echelon of the GLVC? And they're going to get a great test this weekend at Rockhurst. And then in 2 weeks, they'll be somewhere in Missouri at the GLVC tournament.
Yeah, not sure exactly where yet because of seating situations that still needed to be decided. But you look back at this past weekend and a couple of matches that I thought met the classic definition of a trap game or trap match. And Kelly's team handled it superbly, winning the first match in 4 sets. And then in the second match last Saturday, they got right to it, and they took an easy, not an easy, but a convincing 3-set win.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this a little bit with them this season. I talked about them winning the matches they should win, where they get out ahead, they win the first 2 sets. You get some of the reserves in, and I don't know if it's nerves. I don't know if it's, just trying to gel a different lineup together. They don't look as clean in the 3rd set. They come out in the 4th set, take care of business, and the next day they're totally focused on, all right, we're just going to get out of here as quickly and as efficiently as possible. And it's another great weekend for the Lakers to do exactly that.
Well, you look ahead now at the tournament, a little bit of a preview, if we may, and you and I were talking before the baseball game this past Sunday at Ozinga Field, and this is a case where it's not a case where you get to the tournament and you're happy to be there, and whatever happens, happens. This is, I think, a much different scenario because the Lakers this year, I think they only have 2 3-0 losses among their defeats this year. This is a situation where this tournament is wide open. They can compete with anybody, and getting a tournament championship is not implausible.
No, it really isn't. I mean, you look at the 4 teams that are there. It's Roosevelt, it's Missouri S&T, who Roosevelt split with earlier this year to begin conference play. It's Maryville, who came to Goodman Center last week, and Roosevelt took them before in both matches. The first time Maryville had lost a conference set all season. And then Rockhurst, who they're going to play this weekend for a pair in Kansas City. So Roosevelt has been very competitive with the upper echelon, and now it's about finding ways to get those 3 sets when they need them on the same day.
And I got to believe that going up against a team like Rockhurst, going into the tournament, some obvious, maybe a little bit of trepidation, but I also think there can be some positives from that.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think you look at kind of where Roosevelt is. As I said, they started with S&T. They had Maryville. They got a good, confidence booster, I think, a little bit with these 2 wins over Jamestown. Now they go to Rockhurst, and that's going to give them all of the armor that they're going to need to enter the conference tournament. The reason the phrase "iron sharpens iron" is the thing, because it's true. So getting an opportunity to play 2 matches against a team battling for the top of the conference and the chance to potentially host the conference is only going to help Roosevelt as they actually get set to take on the tournament.
Well, it's got to be a positive as well, playing, as you said, a meaningful match. It's not a throwaway situation by any stretch of the imagination. I suspect that the atmosphere will be quite intense during those 2 matches. Great experience going into the postseason.
Oh, 100%. And the other thing is, Roosevelt's got plenty to play for as well. I mean, I think yes, Roosevelt unfortunately can't win the conference and therefore host the conference tournament, but the Lakers can finish anywhere from second to fourth. So they could jump up to all of a sudden finishing second if they can win both matches this weekend against Rockhurst and they get a little help from Maryville against Missouri S&T. So there's still plenty to play for Roosevelt, even if the conference title isn't in play for them.
Volleyball team on the road this weekend, but coming back closer to home this past weekend, baseball and softball, and both teams going up against some very tough opponents. Was able to call the Sunday baseball game, and that was the only game of the series that I saw, Josh, but Grand Valley State was impressive. Top 10 team in the country, and those, I said on air during the game, how do you approach a team that has such a powerful offense?
Yeah, I mean, and you were there and you called all 4 games last year against Davenport. And Davenport came in as the top 15 team. And not that necessarily Davenport was bad. They were very good as well. But this Grand Valley State team was a different level. We talk about the powerful offense. Obviously, they put up quite a number of runs. But the pitching staff as well for them really, did a great job at shutting down the Roosevelt offense to the point where Roosevelt was playing catch-up almost the entire weekend. And as good as the Lakers offense has been at times this year, they're not necessarily built to come back from 8-1, 7-1 type deficits like they had to come back from this weekend.
Yeah, it was an 8-1 deficit fairly early in the game, but I thought that the team did a great job trying to chip away. Game kind of unraveled late, but the Roosevelt comeback attempt keyed by a couple of home runs from C.J. Chalk.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that, because I was on the call for Saturday's broadcast, and one of the things I mentioned early was you really couldn't tell Roosevelt was at that point 0-10 in the league, and unfortunately now 0-12. The energy, the positivity, the vocalness of the dugout. Like, this is a team that hasn't lost hope. Like, even I was talking with some of the players after last Tuesday's loss to Lewis, and they still firmly believe that, like, yeah, we have the talent to take 2 of 4 from Grand Valley. Like, we can easily split this series, and that's the type of confidence that you just kind of need when the season's going a little bit south, like it is for them this year. Staying confident, staying in the moment, and being like, all right, like, didn't go our way this time, but we still got all of our goals ahead of us.
Turning to softball as well, going a little bit north as the softball team playing in Rosemont once again this season, and another tough opponent there over the weekend. And do you see a little bit of a parallel between the baseball and softball teams' individual situations as the season goes deeper and deeper?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely the parallels in terms of the fact that I think both teams think they are much better than their record would indicate. But they're doing about it in, unfortunately, like, different ways. Obviously, baseball can score. We've seen them score. They put up, 6 on Sunday. They put up 9 in Friday's loss. It's just been the pitching has kind of let them down a little bit at times. We saw it obviously in the 11-run 7th inning Sunday that took a manageable deficit and turned it into a Mount Everest of a deficit. Whereas softball, their pitching is doing the job. It's unfortunate. It's been some untimely errors, and the fact that the hitting hasn't been where it needed to be that has kind of cost them a little bit. And so, yes, there are parallels in terms of kind of the situation they're in, but you have a softball team that's losing a lot of tough 4-0 games. You have baseball that's losing a lot of 20-9, 20-10 type games. And those are just 2 very different problems that Michelle Alexander and Jason Becker have to solve.
Yeah, and what stands out for softball, talked about this with Cam Shikaski in previous editions of the podcast, and that is for softball, they've been so close numerous occasions. They had the one game where literally one defensive play probably cost them the ball game, and even in that same doubleheader, they were literally 2 hits away from getting 2 wins despite some defensive troubles. They've had some just heartbreaking losses. Took a 4-run lead into the 7th inning in one game last week, and that game slipped away. I mean, they could very well be in a situation where they would be able to get several more wins than what the current record shows.
100%. And in that respect, it's a lot like baseball was last year. Like, baseball, particularly early, had a lot of really difficult losses that they felt like, we should have had that one. Um, and what you saw with baseball was they were able to turn around towards the back half of the season, get themselves into the conference tournament. And now softball's got to do that. And unfortunately, they got to do it on the road now. Baseball had some home games last year, kind of helped them. Softball's got to go, on the road this weekend to Grand Valley and Purdue Northwest, and they're up in Michigan to take on Ferris and Davenport. So there's a lot of softball left to be played for them, which is good. But the Lakers are gonna have to become road warriors if they're gonna be able to get themselves to Crown Point this year.
All right, turning from baseball and softball now to golf. We'll be chatting with Coach Don Morris shortly here on Making Waves, and talking to Coach Morris. Interview actually taped before our segment here, and it's been a roller coaster ride for the golf team. Weather here, weather there, really having to improvise on the fly. They've had a lot of challenges this season.
They've had a lot of challenges this season, and as Don talked about a little bit, it's complicated by the fact that there's a lot of freshmen who are being asked to contribute for them as well. And freshmen are freshmen for a reason, and you kind of see that where you have a player like Jamie Garnett who puts together a really great round Monday and then comes back Tuesday and it's just not there. Or he talked about Matthew Webb, who put together a fantastic 36 holes in Decatur, comes back the next week and shoots 80 plus in his first round, and you're like, is this the same golfer? The good news for Roosevelt is, as Don said, the better the weather, the better they seem to play, and it looks like it's going to be a gorgeous weekend up in Michigan. So watch out. The Lakers almost made match play last year in their first year in the GLIAC, and they got a chance to do something special again this weekend up in the GLIACs.
Yeah, I know they are really hoping for some good weather because, as you said, good weather brings about most likely much better results. Moving on now to cheer and dance, and just back from Florida for the national championships for both squads. And once again, cheer being able to pick up a 7th place finish, dance a 3rd place finish, and so a successful competition as well for the cheer and dance teams.
Yeah, and this was, I think for those viewers at home and listeners at home, you're used to us talking about national championship cheer, national championship dance. That was at the NAIA level. This is the first year they had to compete against D2 competition. And just looking at cheer as an example, they went from having to compete against, I think last year there were 7 NAIA teams. This year there are 25 D2 teams. So it's a lot of different competition. We talked about the weather. The weather played an impact on the cheer schedule a little bit. They were supposed to go Thursday, Friday, due to some weather in Daytona. They went Friday, Saturday. It's a different level of competition for them, and I think it was a good eye-opening experience for them. And as you said, they were able to at least have success. Cheer getting in the top 10. Dance being able to be second in the prelims. Got clipped a little bit, unfortunately, in the final to finish 3rd in the team performance. Like, there were some really good results considering they really weren't 100% sure what they were getting themselves into in the D2 competition.
Well, it sounds like as well that obviously the tremendous results, but also great learning experience because now they know the type of environment that comes with competing at this level.
Yeah, no, absolutely. A lot of these cheerleaders, they've been used to going in and just being so much better than every other team at the NAIA level. And as much as, you can know that it's going to be a different competition, this isn't a traditional sports in the sense of there's no game tape to watch. Like they're not watching, this is what Saginaw Valley State cheer is doing. And, this is the type of level of competition. Like, you don't know what the level of competition is going to be really until you're there at the event. And, in Roosevelt's case, a lot of their toughest competition performed after them in the prelims. So it's a learning experience, and it's a good opportunity for them to see the level that they need to get to if they're going to have the same success at D2, that we had at the NAIA level.
And before we close out our segment, not forgetting track and field as well, as they are moving through their season and the conclusion of their campaign, obviously coming up as well on the horizon.
Yeah, I mean, track and field is another sport that's been impacted by the weather. They were supposed to run at North Central, and that event got cut short a little bit due to weather. They were supposed to run 2 weeks ago at Olivet Nazarene. That got canceled by the rain. They were able to run this past weekend at the Chicagoland Championships, and you kind of saw some of the rust for a lot of the runners who hadn't run since the GLIAC Indoor Championships in the beginning of March. And they're a team that I think can make a little bit of noise. You're seeing the depth start to come out. You're seeing some of the talent start to come out, and they got 2 weeks to go before the conference championships, and they can score some points on the GLIAC this coming spring.
Always a great time of year looking ahead to conference championship competition. We'll see how it all plays out in the weeks ahead as we'll wrap it up here on our review and preview segment. We're going to pause, take a quick time out. Josh, thanks for being with us. And when we come back, we'll have our weekly chat, this time with Roosevelt University golf coach Don Morris. That's on the way next, so stay with us. Much more to come on Making Waves. And welcome back as we continue on with this week's edition of Making Waves, joined now by Roosevelt University golf coach Don Morris. Coach Morris in his 4th year here at Roosevelt University. And Coach, thanks for joining us here this week on Making Waves. It's been a while since we were last able to chat. Heading down the home stretch now, your golf season here in the spring of 2026. And as we normally like to do, want to see if we can get your assessment of how the season has gone along so far this year.
Yeah, it's actually... The weather's beautiful outside today. We ran into our first tournament that we had. We were down in South Carolina, just trying to get some rust off down there. We had a pretty tight golf course, but it was a good experience for the men to actually just kind of be outside and be on grass. We don't really get that, especially early in March. Then we came back, and unfortunately, our tournament in Murray, we encountered a lot of little snafus, and Murray, Kentucky got canceled Monday, Tuesday the following week because of snow. So we had to pivot to Lexington. The weather kind of got poor there as well, so we had to play 27 holes the first day, and then try to get in, and then another 9 the second day. So we're always trying to pivoting all the time, especially with the schedule. We came basically back up here. And played at Bolingbrook Golf Club, which is a great golf course, live event. We ran into weather again. Instead of being a 36-hole event, we played 27 the first day, and they called it the next day because of poor weather. So we didn't really get a chance to do that one. Then we went down to Indianapolis last week. We're down in Purgatory. Supposed to be 18, 18, and 18 with starting times. Weather got bad again. We had to play 36 the first day and then squeeze in the second day with 18. And a lot of times we haven't had any different hole locations. So we really haven't, in the last 4 weeks of the tournaments, we haven't really played, golf courses. It's just a very kind of different formats with the weather. We're looking forward to hopefully some decent stuff here at the GLIAC in Michigan. We're supposed to get some rain, but we'll see how that kind of goes. But it'll be I think a lot more normal for them, because it's hard for the young guys to kind of adjust and adapt here and there. They're all hitting it very, very well. I see a lot of good improvements with especially their full swings. We're starting a lot of freshmen, starting 3 freshmen, especially in our championship this week. We're doing a lot of short game work. A lot of putting and chipping and pitching. This golf course that we're going to be seeing at Stoughton Bray is designed by a designer called Tom Doak. He does very wide open fairways, but the green complex it's like miniature golf, almost. They're very, very slopey. You got to be able to get your lines right, got to get your speeds right. And that's the one thing that we've been struggling a lot, especially with our short game, because we do have facilities here that are indoors here at Roosevelt, but it never really mirrors what you're going to see out on a golf course. So we're really focusing a lot, especially get our short games really intact, and then I think we're going to be really good, especially for this championship.
You talk about all of the weather woes that you've had to encounter this season, and how does that affect your approach and the team's approach? Because it sounds like to me, just judging from your answer there and your comments about the weather, it kind of throws you off as far as how you want to plan and then actually go through the event. It sounds a lot like you've had to really think on the fly and improvise and improvise, do a lot of improvisation on the spot. And it sounds like that's been the case. And has it been that way for you so far this year?
Yeah, I mean, I've played in as professional golf. I've been playing for 30 years and basically about 5 continents I played on. And you always run into different kind of weather issues. And when I was younger, I would always go, "Oh God, this is terrible." You know what we got. I, as a coach, is especially even though it might be raining and it's 50 degrees out and blowing 20 miles an hour, I have to get out of that van or actually talk to them and go, "Hey guys, we get to play golf today, okay? That's and make it and not being because that energy, okay, is that's what we're always looking for." Is making sure that everybody is, hey, we're always on the same page. We're going to be supporting each other, and it's the same weather for all the competitors. So you have to be able to stick in there. When you get bad, really, really poor weather, Nicholas used to say that 80% of the field usually quits by 9. Okay, so you just got to keep hanging in there. You might actually make some a little bit bigger numbers than you're used to, but being able to adjust for wind, wet conditions, etc. That's what I come in as a coach to making sure that they understand that they have to, it's not just one club, especially with, a 20 mile an hour when you're taking 2.5, okay? Because these kids all hit it pretty far, but they don't understand, especially wind conditions, lie, etc. Those are the things that I can help them out with and control on the golf course and just keep the attitude really quite positive.
You mentioned Jack Nicklaus's comments, and I've heard him say similar things that from a mental standpoint, he was able to eliminate 80% of the field, and that made his job so much easier. And that was such a great contributor to his success. Wound up winning 18 major titles over the course of his career, and I know the other greats have kind of said the same thing. Is that something that you try to impress upon the team members, perseverance, and to make sure you're able to battle through? And if you're able to do that, then the rest of the field will, in a way, kind of take care of itself.
Yes, exactly. I mean, and we use a lot of metrics that making sure, like through with good friend Scott Fawcett with Decade, we track everything, what they're doing, especially with their driving and approach shots, and making sure that they're making very conservative target choices. Okay, we don't aim at flag sticks, and then making aggressive swings. So I don't mind them being very, very aggressive with their target points, but they're not, aiming at tucked flag sticks. It would get themselves in weird situations because when you're hitting a golf ball, it has kind of a shotgun dispersion. It could go kind of left and kind of right, but if you get the middle, more like towards not just middle of the green, but especially we get them focused in a certain area, and as I said, just keeping their attitudes and just the positivity with their games. And I see a lot of the good stuff, especially in practice. Unfortunately, when I'm out on the golf course, I see a lot of different I sometimes see the worst all the time. I always ask them, I go, whenever I come up to them, then I always seem like these really weird swings. I don't know whether sometimes my presence there kind of actually gets them, but I play and practice with them. It kind of freaks them out a little bit. So I'm figuring out, especially with every different team member, and it is a learning process, especially with the freshmen, of what the kind of information that they want. Some people want a lot of information, like a guy like Scotty Scheffler he likes to know, all the distances. He wants to know where the hazards are. And there's other guys like Dustin Johnson. If you say, "Oh, there's out of bounds left," or Bubba Watson, they're just going to hit it a mile right. So they don't need a lot of information. So it's kind of getting that ebb and flow with each of the personalities of each of the team members, but they all seem to work very, very well with each other in practice rounds and trying to keep that positivity coming into this GLIAC championship.
You talk about different players needing different requirements as far as information goes. Do you find that that's the case with your team members as you go through a season?
Oh yeah, I mean of the 8 players on the team, they all have different characteristics in terms of how they grip a golf club, what their swing looks like in terms of their swing path. Some are a little more inside out, some are a little more outside in. Some hit cuts, some hit draws. I mean, so the information that I kind of work with them either in practice or when we're out on the golf course is very different. I have to switch my mind off between each player to making sure that I know who, I'm talking to and what information that they need, something that's very brief and keeping them very, very positive throughout the whole rounds.
Yeah, one thing that I was thinking about as we've been going through our conversation, and that is that golf, you have to deal as a coach of a team, the team aspect, wanting to get a team result. But at the same time, still, you can't get away from the fact that golf is a very individual game, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I can't control what they do with a lot of their swings out there. I mean, it's very different than a football coach or where they can actually, you can draw up plays. I mean, once I send them out there, I'm sending them out there, and basically it's just to making sure that I keep them in a positive frame of mind. I'm keeping them hydrated, keeping them, making sure that they have enough protein or food in them so they're not actually dying out, especially with 36 whole rounds. We're out there for 10 hours. So, I mean, when you do those 36 whole days, they're carrying 25 to 30 pounds, okay, and they're walking 10, 11 miles, okay? So that can be quite taxing. So it's just keeping, as I said, their nutrition and everything that we do here at Roosevelt with Marcus, with our strength and conditioning, helps out tremendously, especially with those 36 whole days. And then me is just with just keeping them in mentally throughout the whole round.
You kind of read my mind on the next question, talking about some days, 36 holes. That's reminiscent. Way back in the day, I believe it was the U.S. Open, they would conclude with 36 hole third and fourth rounds on the same day.
Yeah.
And is it a case where you talked about the physical aspect, but again, at the mentioned right at the end of your answer, the mental aspect as well? Is that difficult to try to get the players to, or are they already familiar with the long days as well? And so is it a little bit maybe not so difficult to prepare them mentally for the long day that may lie ahead?
Yeah, I mean, they're not used in junior golf playing 36, okay, period. What we only do it in professional golf normally with second stage of U.S. Open qualifiers, okay, and those are they call it the longest day of golf for a reason, and they do it one day out of the year. Professional golfers, okay, we do it 5 times every fall and every spring. So with our schedules, because of they are student athletes, we need to get that 36 in usually like on either a Sunday or a Monday, depending on the tournament, because in terms of them playing 3 days, I mean, they need to go to school. So that's why they always squeeze in to making sure it's a 54-hole tournament. Ideally, yes, I would love them playing 18, 18, 18, maybe do it's, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, but those 36-hole days, when you first come in here and you've never experienced it before, it's an eye-opener. And it's just, as I said, just going through our conditioning that we have here at Roosevelt and making sure that I keep them hydrated and well fed out there on the golf course to keep their energy levels up and just give them a really good positive mental attitude.
Speaking of the marathon days, and you touched upon it earlier on at the Partridge Invitational, and during that event, some really impressive individual performances. If you could talk about that a little bit, and also how satisfying is that to see as a coach when you see a player really be able to come to the fore and put a great number on the board?
Yeah, I mean for the KPI, I mean we had a lot of really good individual scores. Unfortunately, we're basically we need to count 4 out of the whole out of the lot of them. So we're always seeing like little improvements, especially with each of the players, and it's coming in. A lot of them, like we are good freshmen that have actually come in that have actually played very, very well. Ben Jones, been an outstanding player, smashes it, hits it really far, and then complete contrast. Luke Falbert doesn't hit it as far, but a very, very repeatable ball flight. Those guys have been very, very reliable to keeping especially our scoring average down. Jamie Garnett, as I said, he's excellent young freshman that's been playing for us. Kind of works through, especially he's kind of had to come a little up and downs here and there. And then we're kind of getting it out with Pierre Halen. He's always been a backbone, especially of our team. Had some really good showings, especially with in keeping himself very, very consistent. Matt Webb had a good, especially good tournament when we were down in Decatur. And as I said, Kez tends to kind of roller coaster. He's more kind of like my John Daly. Okay, he's a grip it and rip it kind of guy, and sometimes it can get a little volatile with his rounds. And then Mark Waller, another upperclassman, he's been very outstanding, especially within his play. He'll actually be one of our alternates for the GLIAC. I'm going to be able to possibly use him as an alternate in case one of the other 5 players doesn't exactly perform very well the first 18. So we're allowed to put in a substitution. So we're looking very, very good. I'm just looking for, I just want some good weather so we can actually play kind of regular kind of golf, okay, and see how the kind of cards fall, especially with probably 3 of the best teams in all Division II are actually in our conference, which is Grand Valley. They're ranked number 1 or 2. Wayne State is always good with Mike Horn. He's great coach there, and then Sam with Ferris State. I mean, they have some great programs, and we're very happy to be in that conference because it produces. You're only going to get better by actually playing against better competition. So we really enjoy, especially competing with them throughout the whole seasons.
You mentioned the freshmen on the team. Can there be a little bit of a culture shock when the freshmen, the newcomers, get onto the stage of college golf? Can there be some surprises, and is that something you have to try to work through during a season?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of just the balancing, especially with your school and our travel and our workouts, whether it might be with Marcus. We do yoga with great Amanda De Palma. She handles a lot of our branding here at Roosevelt. She's an excellent yoga instructor. We do that twice a week with, just help mind-body connection and just being able to balance everything with the practice schedule and also just with travel, just getting used to, especially, being able to play those 36 whole days and being able to, we're up at, 5:30 a.m., especially for those tournament days, because we need to get up, making sure whether it may be a little bit of stretch workout at the hotel, and then get ready, especially for the golf course. So those are the little challenges that we have. But I mean, overall, I think they're really enjoying their experience here at Roosevelt.
During an event, as the event is moving along and is in progress, are you aware or are the players aware of their standing in any particular time? I was, watch golf pretty much every weekend on my own on Sundays, and there's a leaderboard. Any golfer can look up and see what's going on. I know Rory he said he was scoreboard watching during the final round this past Sunday at Augusta. Is there anything like that you're able to access while the event is in progress?
Yeah, we use basically there's all digital scoring now. So there is a hard card that you do keep, there's a regular scorecard, and there's also digital scoring they do off their phones. So you're able to access everything what's going on, especially with the rounds. Now, that being said, I normally, like for the first round, like for the GLIAC, I will actually be doing a little bit more looking, especially with scores, to see in terms of substitutions. Normal tournaments, when I start them out there, the only thing that I can control is what's right in front of me. I can't control that scoreboard, okay? Now, there's certain situations, like when we're with Rory was coming down the stretch. I mean, he's probably not scoreboard watching on Thursday and Friday and Saturday, but back 9 on Sunday at Augusta, yes, you're going to take a look at it and see where you're at, okay, to see how you're going to actually start to come in with the final 9. So they're able to see all the scores, especially because they're entering them on their phones, so they can see where they kind of stand if they want to take a look at it. I'm trying to get them to play a little bit more. As I said, if they sit there and they go, okay, let's say they're 3 behind, they might start pressing a little bit too much and start aiming at flag sticks, and then they start making bigger numbers. So it's like I always tell them, I go, we want to have very conservative targets, pound the greens, get it on the greens. Good things happens when you hit a lot of greens. Okay, that's the number 1 stat on the PGA Tour. It's greens in regulation. Birdies will happen, through dispersion patterns. Like if you're aiming a little bit left, you might have pushed it a little bit and you pushed it to 3 feet. That's how that happens. So we're trying to actually making sure that they can, play where their feet are at instead of trying to look ahead. You don't want to try to get too far ahead of yourself, and you obviously don't want to look, especially about that bad swing that you just made, to actually creep into the next shot. So we want to always keep them present.
You mentioned about not firing at pins, and this is a poor analogy, my own example, but it's the best I can think of here at the time, and that is if I'm playing around and if I'm in a bad spot, I try to tell myself, don't try to do too much. Is that kind of the same thinking when you say not to be too aggressive and fire at pins?
Yeah, I mean, you're trying to go through with percentages of where you're at, okay? And I we bring that up, especially in the Decade app. of like from the right trees on a par four. I mean, average. I'll have PGA Tour averages up there, and I'll also have collegiate division. Usually, just have Division One. They don't have Division Two. And it's in scoring average from the right trees is going to be like 3.3. Okay, from there, so they're going to probably making a bogey. So, but we're trying to get them to their strengths where. That's why we work a lot, especially with short game and pitching. So they can pitch it up short of the green 20 yards as long as it's in a good position. Let's say they're going to be pitching it uphill. It's going to be an easy little pitch. Get it up there to inside of 5 feet. They're going to have a 60% chance of making that instead of trying to go yippee-ki-yay and trying to get this thing on the green. Okay, it's because then from there you can start leaving it long or leaving it in spots where your percentages are not very, very good in order to actually get that thing up and down. So it's a lot of course management through there instead of just trying to fire at everything. It seems like there's a flag there for a reason, but that's just the whole location. That is not where you're aiming.
It sounds as well in this modern day and age that that there is a lot of access to analytic information now. Do you find yourself using that information? It seems to be. We talked about this last week in a different interview, and that AI and analytics are becoming very, I don't know if dominant would be the right word, but so important. And I'm wondering if that's the case for golf as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's very situational here and there, depending on, said where they are, especially on the golf course, et cetera. But using that in terms of them trying to making sure that they're thinking through the shot before that they actually step into the shot. So they know, so they have a good game plan and they commit to that. That's the biggest thing. We use, especially I said, with Decade is a great one. A lot of the analytics that we use, especially in the golf room, whether it might be, we use a device called Hack Motion. It'll actually go through a lot of risk conditions that they're actually using, especially in their swing, to making sure their impact is good. We're going to be implementing another 3D system. Hopefully, I'll have it this summer that actually measures you in 3-dimensional. It'll tell you exactly everything, which is kind of working through your swing and your body. And it's much more useful than actually just using a normal camera, this is just 2-dimensional. You can't see really what's going on. It doesn't tell a real big story. Kids love that information. We have we have ball flight monitors, 2 of them, actually 3 of them, actually in the golf room. Measures out everything, what the ball's doing and swing path, et cetera. So they keep their numbers, their spin rates, their launch angles, everything that's up to what they can do. So it helps them keep them very, very consistent in that manner with their full swings. We just have to work, as I said, a lot of stuff with short game, putting, chipping, sand play.
All right. Well, on that note, we will wrap up this chat here with Roosevelt University golf coach Don Morris. Coach, thanks for joining us, and most importantly, wish you clear weather at the GLIAC tournament coming up, and obviously great success as well.
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you.
And welcome back as we continue on with this week's edition of Making Waves, as now for this upcoming segment, joined by Roosevelt University men's volleyball coach Kelly Magliano. And Coach, thanks for joining us here. First time to be able to chat during the current season. Long season. It starts back in January. I'm always fascinated how we talk in January when the season starts. Cold winter months, but it's a spring sport. But now heading into the month of April and now heading into the home stretch.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, first, thank you for having me. And yes, it's a long season. We started the first week of January, just after the new year, had the boys come back for preseason practices. And then our first weekend of competition was the 10th of January, I believe, was our first day of competition at Lewis. So it's been a long stretch since then, but we've had a lot of growth, and we've gotten better as time has gotten on. So
talked a little bit about the start of the season, going back back in the early part of January. How far back before the start of the year, the start of the calendar year, do you start to work on getting things going when the season is upcoming?
We start physical fall practices around the end of September, early October, and that's kind of when we start our preparation, right? But as soon as the boys get on campus, we start to get some, team bondings in there, and the boys start their workouts with our strength coach, Coach Summers, and Coach Devontae, and So that's the kind of the start of our preparation. And then when we get into fall practices, like I said, at the end of September, early October, that's when we really start to fine tune and go over a lot of skill development and system preparation and make sure that we're ready to go for the start of the season.
Overall, it's a very long journey, isn't it? As you said, starting in the fall, and you go all the way almost to the roughly to the end of April, depending on how deep into the postseason you might be able to go. That's a long way to go, isn't it?
It is, but while it is a long journey, it is a fun one, and we've been really trying to make sure that we celebrate the small wins just as much as we celebrate the big wins, and that kind of makes the season not feel as long. If anything, it's gone by a little too fast.
Always goes quickly, as we say, almost with every sport. How would you assess the season so far? Again, starting to head into the home stretch, some very important matches coming up. How do you feel about the way things have gone so far here in this 2026 season?
I think they've gone well. I feel like we've, met expectations reached the goals that we wanted for this season so far. Obviously, there's some games that we wish we could have won. Some games that maybe we thought we should have won, right? But overall, we've seen growth in not just the win column, right, within our program, but within the depth of our program. And, regardless of who the starting six is on the court, we have another, 12 guys on the bench ready to go and get after it. And for us, that's incredibly important, as that's something that we haven't always had within our program, right? So, from the first guy on the court to, maybe for lack of a better word, the last guy on the bench, we have the depth, and, that's something that we've really been proud of and been able to showcase this year.
Judging from what you say, it sounds like you feel that the program has really taken a great step forward here this year.
I would say so. It's taken a little bit, right? And credit to where credit's due. All of the guys that we've had play in our program in the past have helped build what our program is now. And without those guys taking a chance on Roosevelt, taking a chance on me as a head coach, we wouldn't be in the situation that we are today. So, from 0-20, my first year as head coach, to having a winning record this year, every guy that we've had play for us and have called themselves a Laker and has worked hard in our gym has been a big part in where we are now.
It's interesting that you bring that up, the fact that every year brings a new group of players that you have to obviously work with and try to get to your goals, but you also remember those who came before, and those players, even though they might have gone through some rough times at the outset of the programs, at the program's infancy, still they made a contribution as well and helped to get the program where it is today.
Absolutely. And, like I said prior, without those guys, we wouldn't be here. And, without the hardships that maybe, or the adversity that we experienced in the last couple of seasons, we wouldn't be in the position that we are this year with the success that we're seeing. And, those guys that came before are the ones that helped lay the foundation. They're the ones that went through the trials and tribulations. They're the ones that really helped us build, the relevancy of our program. And, also credit to our current roster, right? They came in, we had 11 new guys this year added to the team, and they came in with an open mind, with a work ethic, and with a goal. And they wanted to make sure that this year was successful. And so far they've achieved that.
You talk about so many new members of the team, a couple of veterans, but again, many, many new members of the team, but it sounds like they embraced the task right away.
Absolutely. I mean, this group is incredibly focused. Volleyball is their number one priority. Sometimes I have to remind them that, maybe school should be their number. I'm just kidding. They're great in the classroom too. But they love to compete. They love to work hard. I don't have to ask them to come into the gym and give their best effort, their best focus, their best energy, because that is something that they've set for themselves as a standard. And so far they've, been pretty consistent in meeting that.
Well, you look ahead now to the season, again, heading into the home stretch. I think it's 4 matches now that remain in the regular season, 2 at home, 2 on the road. How do you see the team situation right now?
As you mentioned, we have a couple tough opponents coming up. We host Jamestown this weekend. Good weekend for us after last weekend against Maryville. They're, tough team, top team in our conference, back-to-back losses in 4. can be difficult, but thankfully we're home again this weekend, and I'm hoping that'll help us bounce back against Jamestown. They're a tough team, and we're gonna have to work to get those wins, and then we head over to Rockhurst in Kansas City, and again, they're another tough team in our conference. They've also been doing well, so the boys know what's expected of us and the work that we're gonna have to put in these next couple of weeks in order to make sure that we end the season with a couple wins.
Making the point that coming back home now to the Goodman Center, and I think one of the great high points of the season, the team's performance at the Goodman Center. I think it was, the first 7 or 8 matches in a row, able to get wins. That's always so important, isn't it, to get the home victories, because every home victory you get makes it a little bit less pressure on the road when you have to hit the road, doesn't it?
Yes, and the boys love playing at the Goodman. They, that was just like an example last weekend when against Maryville. We were down 0-2 on day 2, so on Saturday. Not super pretty sets 1 and 2, right? And boys came out in set 3 and gave it their all, and were able to come away with a win. And after we won that set, going into set 4, I heard our libero, Simo M. He was like, "That's the Goodman," right? And just getting all pumped up for that. And so yeah, they enjoy playing in the Goodman, and they enjoy defending home court. I think that they understand that our fans and those at Roosevelt are loyal and faithful and want to come out for a good game. And so our guys try and give them a show every time that we're here.
You hit upon, I thought, what has been another hallmark of the team, and that has been the ability to bounce back. And you're going to have to call on that now in the upcoming matches. So many times this year, it seems you've had to get back to that 5th set to get a victory. And while obviously that's not something you want to have to go through very often, still having that experience has to be a benefit.
Yeah, something I think I've touched on quite a bit over the course of the season is the boys and how resilient they are. They've spent this entire season, I think, every game that we've played, they haven't given up, right? And that's something that, I think is a testament to their discipline, and something that makes us a hard team to play. Because, a team might be up 2-0 and think that, all right, well, we're going to go and get this sweep and it's going to be easy, right? But we claw our way back. We stay positive, and the guys are just hungry, right? And so, us being down 0-2 it's not, we always talk about it. It's a position we like being in, right? Like we'll always say, like, this is where we want to be. We like being here. And they do. And, they've, like I said, they found their way to claw back in a lot of games this season, and it's a testament to them and their resilience and their discipline. And, they're a cool group, man. They're a cool group.
Sounds like as well the approach of having the glass half full as opposed to half empty has been also something that's been a benefit for the team.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, in every situation that we've been down, we've just reminded each other, reset, stay calm, manage ourselves, manage our emotions, manage our errors, and we like being in this situation, right? We want to bounce back.
When you're coaching on the sidelines in a 5th set situation, those 5th sets are so intense. They're intense to call for Cam and I, and I got to believe it's 100 times more when either you're coaching or playing, because every point is so much more magnified in a race to 15 in that 5th set.
You know what? In the past and early on in my coaching career, I would tell you that a 5th set would have me thinking every little thing and feeling every bit of nervous or stressed. And I'm not saying that I don't feel that now, but I will say with this group, I kind of know when we have it or when we don't. And majority of the time going into a 5th set, like, I'm confident. I know that they're going to get it done. And I know that they're going to find their way to come back. And I know that, we can trust them to get it done and get it done on their own, right? And a 5th set, you only have so many points. I don't know how many challenges I'm going to have left. Hopefully 1, right? And then, depending on how many timeouts we use, most of the time they're on their own and getting it done. And they do. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of emotions and nerves going into a set 5 scenario. But I will say wholeheartedly this year, I haven't felt a lot of that with these guys. Our reverse sweep against Quincy a couple weekends ago, I knew we had it. I was like, go do your thing. Sometimes I'm a little crazy on the sideline and try and provide a lot of energy. I feel like this year with this team, I've kind of just been able to chill because I know that they're going to get it done.
How much does having that much confidence in your team help you as a coach?
I mean, I would say, it helps a lot. We've tried this year on making sure, things are a collaborative effort, right? Like we struggled in the beginning. I'll just be, honest and upfront about that with, kind of being on the same page with things. But as the season has gone on, we've grown together. I think individually, myself as a coach have grown, and the boys individually as themselves, as players, and we've grown together. And so I think, the confidence comes from that, the trust piece and how we've, grown in our relationship with one another. And then, just overall the trust that we have for each other. And I think that adds to the confidence.
We talked about confidence and one other aspect of the team that's been, I think, a hallmark, the depth of the team. You've mentioned it a couple of times during our chat here today.
Yep.
One of the deeper volleyball squads I think I've seen here at Roosevelt or at any school covering volleyball over the years. That's got to be as well a great help to you as a coach because you have different players you can put in different situations, and you have a great amount of, again, confidence that they'll get the job done.
Yeah, we talk a lot about, how it takes everybody within our roster for our success, whether you get into the game for a set or for a point or as a serving sub, or whether you are on the bench for the entire match. Everybody is still contributing, right, to the win, and then everybody contributes to the loss as well. We talk a lot about that too. We win and lose as a team. If we lose, everybody's got to do their job better, whatever that job is. If we win, everybody did their job well, but it takes everybody in order to get that win, whether it's in the practice gym, in the weight room, or, in the Goodman when we're in the middle of a game. And so not only do we just have depth physically, we have that depth mentally and I'd say spiritually, right? Like, our bench is a huge help in intense matches by being able to create energy and support. And then also just the flip side of that of being mentally and physically ready to get into the game when we need them to as a relief, or like I said, a serving sub, or, somebody needs to come out of the back row and they're struggling there. So we need somebody to go in and pass the ball, right? Like everybody's ready physically, mentally, and always for the team. And I think that's something that, is special about this group is, that camaraderie piece.
Sounds like your confidence, and not only that, just your general opinion here. It sounds like this has been really one of the great teams you've worked with.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of great teams at Roosevelt. I think I've loved every team that I've had here in the last, I think this is my 5th year here. I've loved every team that I've had, and like I said earlier, every team has contributed to what we're doing this year. Whether it was physically, mentally, or just helping build the culture and the foundation of the program. This team this year has, different talents and provides, a different type of focus and a different type of energy than other teams in the past. But I think all of the teams that we've had within our program are the reason that we're in the spot that we are now. And yeah, credit where credit is due. This team this year has really, worked their butts off and making sure that we've seen the success that we've had. And they are not done working. Their goal and their focus is to reach the conference tournament and to be successful in the conference tournament. And I have a feeling that we're going to achieve that goal.
As you said, the work not quite done yet as you head to the final weeks of the season, but either way, continued success as not only for this season, but as the years continue on here at Roosevelt for you.
Yes, I would hope so. I think that, this year is the year that hopefully can shift the relevancy and, the overall state of our program. And I always said when I first started here, by year 5, we would be be in this situation, and we are. So I'm happy that, that plan is going accordingly. But our job is not done yet, right? We are still nowhere where we want to be. And we still have a lot of work yet to be done.
All right, Coach. Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank
as we'll
you.
close it out on that note. Again, continued success this season and in the future, and look forward to chatting again here on Making Waves down the road.
Thank you again for having me. I also look forward to chatting with you.